When an agent suggested that Beth Smith write a book, she realized she was an authority on one topic, being single. But she didn't rely on her experience alone. She reached out to single women in 4 cities across the country. Take a look.
Singles need a place where they can come.
Beth Smith is an award-winning journalist and the managing editor for Christianity Today magazine. She's 29 and she's single. Beth started writing letters to her future husband when she was 12. But 10 years later, she grew discouraged and burned them. She says some women spend their lives waiting for a husband and never find one. Recently, Joy interviewed unmarried Christian women in 4 cities around the country and shares their insight and common misconceptions about being single in her book, Party of One.
Please welcome to the 700 Club, Beth Smith. Beth, great to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
From one single woman to another.
That's right.
So, you say in your book, singleness is for a season. Singles hear that all the time. Why do you say this is not necessarily truth?
Yeah, I feel like we hear that all the time. And I feel like it's something that's really actually kind of detrimental if you digest it. Because if you're believing that singleness is just a holding pattern for the next thing in your life, you could believe that for 40 years. You could believe that for your whole life. And I think it really denigrates the good work that you're doing right now. And so I've kind of embraced this mentality that your singleness could be for your whole life, and it's a gift, and that we should celebrate it, And so it's not just a season that's leading to the next thing. It is this wonderful, awesome opportunity that we should live into right now.
Well, let's go back to what happened to you in the 7th grade. You got the promise ring where you're waiting for your husband, and then what was the process that began back in 7th grade?
Oh my goodness, I definitely grew up in one of those churches where we did the true love waits thing, and you sign on the dotted line that you're committing yourself to waiting for your husband, and that you're kind of marrying Christ until then, And
you're 12 years old.
12 years old. I was a child. I remember that there was a beautiful ring and banana bread, and that's about it.
Right.
And so I got the ring, and I think I lost it pretty quickly, which wasn't a great omen for everything that was to come. But it was this idea that you were committing yourself, and so I started writing letters to my future husband.
And you did this for 10 years.
For 10 years.
So what happened when you were 22?
So
You're in college now.
I was in college, and I was rereading the letters, and there were so many stupid details, proms and cheerleading competitions and things that I knew my husband at 22 would not care about. And so I was like, more than likely on my wedding day, should I ever get married, my husband will want beard oil or a pocket watch. He will not want letters from a 16-year-old girl. And so I actually burned the letters. I mean, there were hundreds of them.
You did say beard oil, right?
Beard oil.
Okay, because beards are in vogue right now.
I really like beards, and so I was hoping that would be true, that my husband would want beard oil. And so I burned them, and I was like, I just feel like this is something that I can't possibly imagine, he would want, and I may never get married. Right. And so
that was a bold move to burn the 10 years worth of letters. But at 22, a lot of women are not even interested in a husband yet. They're just getting their career started and they're waiting. But you'd already had 10 years invested in pining away for this future husband.
That's right. Yeah. A whole decade. And I felt like at that point that I kind of needed a new script. I had made the timeline. I had written it in my Bible. I had prayed over it, that at 22 I would be married and I would be at least on the process of starting a family. And that hadn't happened. And so I was kind of like, okay, so what is the new script? What does the process of singleness look like for me as an adult?
Yeah, and you also wanted to find out how other single women were dealing, especially with dating. And you traveled around the country. What did you find out?
Dating and singleness is so hard. And we lacked such a robust theology of singleness. There's something that's really kind of lacking in our churches, where we have lots of easy, cliche go-to phrases, but we really don't have true comfort for singles. And I feel like that's something and that's part of my book, where I was like, I just felt like there was a need and there was a hole, and I wanted to fill it. And so I talked to all these women, and we found out the hardest parts, and I decided to kind of compile them them
What
and
did they
figure
say
it
the
out.
hardest thing about dating was for them?
Oh my goodness. I mean, across the board, the answers will change from women. And then also if you pin down a woman, it could change week to week. And so sometimes it's about like finding the pools are just so small, you know, and sometimes it's that the guys don't date within their churches because they don't want to mess up the community there, which is crazy to me, you know, and sometimes.
I have not found personally the church a great pool.
How crazy is that?
I know.
How crazy is it that the church shouldn't be where we date?
Let's talk about you, Joy Beth. What steps have you taken to stop keeping your life on hold? Because a lot of times you can say, when I get married, I'll start living and doing all these things. How have you taken steps to not do that?
Okay, so one of the first ones was that I had this choice. I decided to get a whole bunch of really great furniture for my house. And that was a big choice for me because I was like, what if my husband doesn't like a big brown couch? You know, and I was like, well, you know what? Oh, well, like I love this big brown couch. And if I ever get married and he doesn't like it, we'll figure it out. And then I had this bedroom and I really wanted to set it up a certain way. And I was like, if I set it up this way, I can only get one nightstand instead of two, you know? And it was like, well, that's making a choice of like living the life I have right now instead of like the hope that someone else will use that nightstand. And so I only got one nightstand, you know, and it's like these kind of small choices. Instead of projecting the hope of what's coming, it's like, well, this is the life I have right now. You know, I have one nightstand and I'm buying the couch I want and I'm going to hang the paintings on the wall knowing that I might get married. But
well, of course, I have to ask you this, Joy Beth. Do you still have the dream of being married someday?
Absolutely. I totally have the dream, and I have a ton of unfulfilled longings, but I'm still trying to figure out what like God's goodness in those longings look like, because that's what the whole struggle is about, you know, is that I can have these longings and they can be unfulfilled, but God is still good in that.
I think it's a great message because we, as single women, we need to enjoy life now and still trust the Lord because, you know, He's faithful to give us the desires of our heart. Well, Joy Beth's book is called Party of One, and it's available nationwide. And you don't want to miss our social interview with Joy Beth on Facebook. To watch that, go to facebook.com/700club. One of my favorite topics. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we hope to have you back.